What is going on, guys? Automatic here with another coach interview for the UBL D-League. Today we are joined by Ashenmoor.
How's it going?
So, apologies in advance from my end that this ends up going up after the playoff matches. Like, that's just basically my schedule being a total disaster. But we're still here. We're still gonna give you guys the interview and the opportunity to get Ashenmoor, to learn Ashenmoor a bit better, since from some of you, this will be the first time you've seen him play, and maybe also not the last. We'll see. But from now on, how did you kind of get into the casual side of things of Pokemon? Like, when did it all start for you?
Oh boy. So I started playing Pokemon back when I was 8 years old with Pokemon Red. First game I ever got
Oh, damn.
to play. So
Actual
I'm
first
kind
game.
of dating myself a little bit, but yeah, I'm 29, so I've been around the Pokemon scene for quite some time. I always liked to play competitive Pokemon, even way back when. I had my own little team of level 100s, and I'd stomp on people after school. So, you know, that's how it goes. Probably around Gen 4 or so is when I actually started getting into the real competitive stuff, like EVing things and breeding things correctly, and actually playing a little bit of VGC and Smogon tiers. And I thought they were kind of interesting, but the metas always seemed kind of stale, and I wasn't too big of a fan, especially of the doubles format. I'm more of a singles player. So Gen 6 rolls around. One of my buddies says, hey, there's something called a Pokemon Draft League, and they force you to take lower tier stuff, and it's always new and exciting. So I was like, yeah, sure. Let me get into that kind of deal. And then I've been doing that ever since.
All right, pretty cool. I'm 22, so by the time that Red and Blue came out, this was the year I was born. So I didn't have the opportunity to actually grow up with. I mean, I still got I grow up with Pokemon, but not just at the actual start. So that's really cool there. You also mentioned a bit of Smogon and VGC before you got into the draft leagues, but do you still play them? What tiers or anything, or did that just all drop as soon as you started playing leagues?
Yeah, as soon as I started playing draft tier, I pretty much dropped all that kind of stuff. I have played OU a few times since then, but most of the time what I'm running is like low tier jank, just trying to make it work and screw basically anti-meta teams. And then I'll play random battles too, because I just find that to be more entertaining, I guess.
So for you, it's just after at the start of Gen 6 you got into the draft leagues, or later in that generation, like X and Y or Auras, like what period of time?
I played a couple in X and Y, where I basically just picked stuff that I liked, so I'd have teams of like Garchomp, Nidoking, all that kind of jazz. I didn't really think so much about, type cores or what would be the most effective for speed tiers. Then when Oras came out, I actually started thinking more into like the strategy behind it and started to get kind of more serious.
All right, and since when have you been doing this for Wi-Fi, or what's the UBL your first?
UBL is the first, actually it's the second Wi-Fi league I ever did. The very, very first league I did was also a Wi-Fi league, but it kind of fell apart because nobody had the ability to gen besides like one person. And they didn't
tough.
want to gen 15 teams every week.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. But now you've actually had the experience of a full Wi-Fi league, or a full 9 weeks and playoffs. I would say that's pretty significant. How would you look at the whole topic from Showdown versus Wi-Fi right now?
I will say this. Wi-Fi is so much better to look at, right? And it's kind of got a built-in timer, so that whole argument's kind of void. However, I like Showdown better from a competitive standpoint, and the reason being is it's very easy, very simple to actually build your Pokemon, and that's most of what the feedback is between Wi-Fi and Showdown, is just how do you actually build stuff. For instance, the team I built this league, I had Mega Kangaskhan and I had Jirachi. And if you want to put like Body Slam on Jirachi, or you want to put Wish on Kangaskhan, even with like auto legality mod genning Pokemon for you, it's still an absolute nightmare to do some of that stuff. Or for instance, in one of the last games I played, I put Hidden Power Poison on Tapu Fini. That took me 45 minutes to figure that out. On Showdown, I could just do that in 2 seconds. Done.
Mm-hmm. So does it also mean for you that you are not interested anymore in any further Wi-Fi leagues, or is it just for you that, hey, I prefer Showdown, but it's whatever?
That's a good question. I do like Wi-Fi. I've really enjoyed playing the UBL D League specifically. I've never actually gotten to be forced to play a Wi-Fi league, but I really enjoyed making content for the Wi-Fi, and I think that's really the main draw of Wi-Fi over Showdown.
Yeah, that's definitely also what almost every creator is saying in this community, and that's kind of the thing. There are a few creators that are in both. A lot of them actually pick a side. But for you, is the value in your content, would that be a reason for you to say, hey, I'm gonna look for more Wi-Fi leagues, or you say, hey, that was a great experience, but Showdown's my thing?
Oh, I'd absolutely do it. But really what I would like to do going forward is to have pretty much 1 or 2 Showdown leagues and maybe 1 Wi-Fi league I'm actually making content for. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would do it again.
All right. Also, speaking of the UBLD League, as we are slowly approaching that, what was for you, what made your decision to sign up for this D League?
So that's an interesting story. I've always wanted to see how good I actually am. People that I know tell me I'm decently good at playing Pokemon, but I've always wanted to play against the highest tier opponents I can. So way back when, I think 2 years ago, I applied for the GBA D League. And obviously at that point in time, I didn't even have a YouTube channel. I was just kind of a random person playing stuff, and needless to say, I didn't get accepted. And I messaged one of the admins and I was like, hey, how would I get into one of these going forward? And they're like, well, you need to make some content, and it needs to be of some decent quality. So that's really what got me started into YouTube in the first place. Mm-hmm. For the 2 years after that, I applied to random other leagues, and I never got accepted to anything. So I stepped up my video quality a little bit more. I saw an advertisement for you guys specifically, and I was like, oh, hey, this looks like a good high-tier league. Let me apply for this. Put some effort into making the video, and I got accepted into it. So really, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into some kind of at least mid to high tier Wi-Fi league where I could actually kind of get my name out there a little bit as a competitive battler and as a content creator too.
I mean, that's a pretty solid reason, especially to apply for a D League like that. If those are your motivations to grow and whatnot, then those are probably your best shots at taking. Because I definitely agree in the situation where I've applied to other leagues as well back in the days, and some of them you get in, others you don't, because of there are so many people, and especially if there's a league where they only need like 1 or 2 replacements going from their previous season, it might be pretty tough to get in. I mean, especially in Showdown, because like as you said, everyone can play Showdown, everyone can start there. For Wi-Fi, of course, you sometimes have your requirement of capture cards and whatnot, but even now, those days, it's not. Most leagues don't even require it. You can just say like, hey, as long as you hit someone up who has the capture card for you or does the jamming for you, that's all fine. But did you also feel like now that you named your goals or your reasons to join the D League, that you succeeded in them? Do you think that the D League did help you grow your content and your own competitiveness?
Yeah, absolutely it did. I'm kind of a person that sometimes doesn't like to take the initiative, so what I do instead is I get myself committed to actually doing something, so I have to do it, mm-hmm. and that kind of drives me to actually be better. So as soon as I got accepted to the D League, I was like, oh shoot, I better learn how to do some graphic design, make some of my backgrounds, figure out how I'm going to make this video better. Going through the team builder, trying to redesign that so that it's actually interesting to watch, because a lot of times people skip through those things, and I was like, what can I do differently? Basically just trying to motivate myself to be better by committing to doing a Wi-Fi league. And also in the past leagues that I've actually uploaded to YouTube, they weren't upload required. In fact, I was the only person uploading, so I never had a set schedule of like, hey, every week you're doing a video. Sometimes I'd go 3-4 weeks and then I'd just do them all at once.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I can definitely see that being some of the things that help you be more consistent in that sense. You also quickly mentioned the team builder videos, which, as you said yourself, that they are really different from what most people do for your side, for the intention to keep them more interesting. But the main thing is, because a lot of people were asking, is like, how do you keep up with such in-depth team builder videos? Because that's sometimes, especially because we all know that sometimes you record a team builder before a match, sometimes after. There's no one who records them all before, and especially those matches where you already know the results. Personally, I find it really hard to still go as in-depth as you did on your videos.
Yeah, so in real life, I am an analyst and I'm also a teacher. So I teach analytics and critical thinking. So I've kind of been down this whole rabbit hole into, how do you convey a thought process? And so I've gotten pretty decent at actually putting myself into a different seat, if you will. So even if it's post-game, I can put myself into the same mental seat that I was in before the game and kind of recalculate all of what my thought process was. I've had a lot of practice doing it, so I hope that came through in the videos. But really, one of my goals as far as the YouTube content goes isn't just to entertain people, but also to inform. So I hope that by being able to look at an in-depth process, that people think about the game in a different way, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of my motivation behind making them as in-depth as they are every single time.
Mm-hmm. It's actually pretty funny because also from my own perspective, since I'm into analytics as well, and I recently started a job as a teacher, so maybe for me it will get easier to do them like you're doing over the past couple of weeks. But the viewers definitely seem to like them. Of course, for the power rankings for myself and Irish, it did provide us a lot of intel, which really helped us out, placing you well. And that's also one of the things, because you did end up making playoffs in the end as number 4 seed, but it still was kind of a season with ups and downs for you result-wise, if I can name it like that.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There are some games that I regret, and there's definitely a bunch of plays that I regret, and some of that might have to do with doing several leagues in conjunction when I've usually only done one at a time. And some of it also has a little bit to do with team building. I don't think that I picked the best draft league team. I picked something that was kind of more difficult to use and more difficult to prep with. And yeah, with the amount of competition in this league, I think I just dropped the ball a couple of times. But I did end up making the playoffs, and I am happy about that. Could it have been more consistent? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because if you look at your results, it's like the longest streak, no matter win or loss, the longest streak you had were 2 games. Every single time. And that's, of course, your schedule was also pretty all around the place. It wasn't really that you had like these tough guys here and then the other guys there. It was just kind of, if you look at the rankings at the end of the season, it was kind of all around for you in sense of strength. But of course, the fun part is something which I also mentioned earlier, is you played the New South Wales in week 9, which was one of the other teams going for the playoffs. So essentially, you already had a knockout game before the playoffs even started. So did it also feel to you that way, that it was actually already almost like a playoff game at that point?
To an extent, yes. Really, the last 2 games I had to win. I didn't really have any choice. But the week 8 game against Jetman and the last one. So it did feel like a little bit of pressure overall. But I tried to treat him the same way as I would any other game, and prep the same way and play the same way. I know that differential could have mattered, especially with Merrill had he won his game. But I've never played for differential in the past, and I don't want to get into that mindset now. I always want to play for what's the best way that I can win the game. If I have to sacrifice stuff to make that happen, I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. If you look back at the results so far, because in the regular season you finished 5-4 with a +2 differential. Of course, you did lose round 1 of the playoffs against Vepsis, but I mean, the dude was 9-0 after the regular season. But besides that, do you feel that you got most out of it, or you actually accomplished with what you did, or how you performed?
Did I accomplish my goals as far as joining the D League?
Yeah, I mean,
or as far as performance goes?
Yeah, are you happy with your performance, basically, the whole catch?
Am I happy with my performance? To an extent, yes. That's the short answer.
You can do some examples of things you say, like, hey, this is definitely some things I'm happy with, and some things I'm less happy with. Of course, if we already touched about some of them, then we can just get through them quicker, but just to name a few.
So one of the reasons that I decided to do this in the first place is so that I could improve. I'm not so much focused on winning games so much as I am learning things from games and being able to incorporate that and get better. I feel like wins just come with time and with knowledge. As far as the games go, I just want to play it competitively, or at least learn something valuable from each game. In which case, I would say yes, I did succeed. This was my first time playing against opponents, I think, of this level, and being able to play against people like Vepsis, even though I lost both times, tells me a lot of things. I get to see what their process is. I get to see how they build, how they organize their team, and then I get to play against them and strategize. And even if I lose, I've still gained good information that I can use going forward in the future. So from that aspect, I'm 100% happy with the way things went.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Something else which I did find interesting at your team is that you had Mega Kangaskhan on your team, which also ended up being your kill leader. And Mega Kangaskhan with Outside Mythos is something that a lot of people cannot get everything out of Mega Kangaskhan. Like, they do pick it for a relatively high price, and then it just sits there, gets like 4 KOs in the season, and that's it. But for you, it absolutely went positive in that sense. 12 kills, almost kill leader during the regular season with that. What was your approach with Kangaskhan? Do you understand how some people may not like it or make it not work?
Oh, 100% I understand why people don't like it. But at the end of the day, it forces your opponent really to run Rocky Helmet unless they have Ferrothorn or Garchomp. And even limiting an item on a Mon can potentially be something useful. So even in games where I didn't even bring Mega Kangaskhan, I'm like, oh, that's the Rocky Helmet Mon. And also, I purposely drafted different Mons that had knockoffs, so Tapu Fini, Zeriora, I mean, very, very fast knockoff there, and a very bulky knockoff. Specifically so I could switch them in against stuff that, hey, I know that's got the Rocky Helmet, let's get rid of it right now. And then once you do that, Mega Kangaskhan just sweeps through the rest of the game.
Because, of course, how much did your draft process affect your Mega Kangaskhan pick? Because there are quite a few pieces there that really support it well.
Mega Kangaskhan, I'm going to be honest, I didn't start off wanting to pick that. I really started off wanting to pick something like Mega Lopunny. I don't know why I thought it was going to go on as long as it did. I think mostly because after the first couple of rounds, it was just me and Vepsis and maybe one other person that still needed a Mega. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe Mega Lopunny would make it. Then once that got picked, I was like, well, I still need a physical breaker, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Kangaskhan. I had the knockoff tech, I had the fighting resistances I needed, and most importantly, I had Finny to prevent status. So prevent paralyze, prevent burn on that thing seemed like a really good kind of deal.
For sure. During the whole season, what was your favorite set to bring? Or, like, whether it worked or not, what was your favorite set making?
Oh, it was Mismagius. Perish Trap Mismagius against the Snorlax for week 8. That was absolutely my favorite set.
I mean, those are the fun things to let happen, because of course there's a risk of it running Pursuit or Crunch or anything like that, but if stuff like that works out, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, especially when you know, hey, they're definitely going to bring this build, and they're definitely going to switch it in right here, and it just works out perfectly. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and it makes you sad, but sometimes it just, the stars align, and the prep is good.
Yeah, like those moments where you bring prep that's I don't want to say memes or anything like that, but just perhaps it's like unconventional in that sense, or something that's not used that often, and the whole specific plan that you figured out just comes together. Like those are some of the best moments in the draft league, honestly. That you just know, like, yeah, I called that, I read that from the start.
Yep, absolutely.
And of course, we quickly touched on you faced Websters 2 times because you faced them in the first round of the playoffs. Did you would you have preferred to? Because in your situation, you could have ended up being third seed, which would have meant you would have played Skyrender. Was that a match you would have preferred, or was it all right for you the way it went right now?
It's all right for me either way it goes. At the end of the day, the most consistent player is still going to win regardless of who I actually go up against. So if that's Vepsis or Skyrander, whichever. I would have preferred to go up against Skyrander specifically because the first game that we did, I kind of lost it on turn 1, making a way too risky play. And my first game against Vepsis, I actually played pretty toe-to-toe with him up until the end, and really just like one play kind of lost the game for me, not going for the defog on the Crobat. I'm still kind of annoyed about that, but I still think that Taunt was a reasonable play. So I thought that game was close. My game with Skyrander wasn't close, so I wanted to go up against him specifically so that I could have a better game against him.
Yeah, that's totally a fair thing there. So with that, we're through most of the actual D-League stuff here. So one more theoretical question, which I ask to every single coach in these interviews here, is if from now on you would get first pick in every single draft you join, but you have to call a Pokemon right now which you would draft every single time over and over again round 1, and assuming that Pokemon has to be allowed in almost every league, so no Primal Groudons or anything like that, what Pokemon would that be for you?
Tapu Fini.
Yeah, Tapu Fini, round 1 every single time overall.
It was so good in this league, and I'm playing another league called Mount Silver where I also have Tapu Fini, and it's almost the league kill leader right now because I've been playing it so offensively, I'll say. Its coverage is just so good. It's incredibly bulky. It has tons of different support moves. It's a great like tier 1 defogger. You prevent statuses. It does everything you would want in a bulky water except for recover.
Yeah, because that's also one of the things that kind of appealed to me in your team, is that you brought Fini to, I think, every single game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you did. And
yes.
It got 9 kills. That's, for Fini, that's a lot. Because a lot of people just tend to run it more defensively. So what's your kind of... Was it that your team allowed you to use it more different, or did you just run it offensive anyways? Like, hey, I prefer it like this, so I just run it like this.
A little bit of a combination of both, I would say. I think there's a lot of value in Draft League for running Pokemon a little bit differently than people would expect. For instance, when you see a Suicune, you're generally expecting, hey, that thing is definitely going to be defensive, it's going to have Protect or Substitute or what have you. But if you run it Specs or if you run it Scarf with a full attack investment, you can catch somebody off guard very, very easily, I think. Same thing with Fini, except Fini has a way more usable special attack stat than Suicune does.
Because you also mentioned the no recovery part of Fini. How much of a setback for you was that actually during the season?
So I don't think I ever played a game in the season where it ended up that was too big of an issue. Leftovers is usually enough recovery on that thing. I did have 3 different methods of wish support, even though I think I only used that wish support in maybe 1 game. That could have potentially healed Fini back up, so that was another reason why I don't think it was too bad. I always think that you should have some sort of wish support on your team, so pairing Fini up with something like that is probably the most ideal way to do it.
Yes, of course, on your team you have like from the weaknesses from Fini's side, like you have Jirachi, of course, who takes some, you have Zeraora who takes some, so there are the possibilities there. Just a bit remarkable that you succeeded in using Finny that well offensively, as most of them just use it as that fat nature madness taunt defog Pokemon with a super barrier, maybe hope that it lives a few hits.
Yep.
And of course with that, the follow-up question is, if this deal was real, if you could get Finny every time, round 1, first overall pick, but you couldn't pick anything else, would you take that deal or not?
No. Because part of the appeal of Draft League is drafting something different every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you draft the same mon all the time, it starts to get a little bit stale, and it also doesn't push you to improve any. So that's my answer. I would not take that deal.
Okay. Then I think with that we are pretty much through everything. So is there anything you still want to say to the viewers?
Thanks for watching the UBL D-League. I hope that you enjoyed the content that I put out. Thanks to you and Irish for having me along.
No problem,
I would also say, I mean, it was a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it, regardless of what happens from here on out. I'd also say thanks to all the other battlers in the league for providing very entertaining battles and good prep and pushing me to do better, and I wish all of them luck as well. And I think really that's it for me.
Yeah, alright, that's a good way to take it out here. So of course, if you haven't, be sure to check out Ashenmoor's channel as well for the league content and whatnot during the entire story just yet. And of course, be sure to leave a like rating down below, subscribe if you don't want to see more, be sure to follow the UBL on Twitter, and also join our Discord server, links are all down below, to stay tuned with the potential Season 3, of course, which we are gonna announce at any time soon, not sure how soon, but anyways, it will be there. So for you guys, be sure to stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time.